Okay, guys, this is anatomy video 1.03 over body quadrants and cavities. And again, we're still tackling kind of all the general vocabulary that you're going to need throughout the course of the year. I'm going to wing this down a little bit because we're going to want the room to write. So let's do that, kind of recenter. So on the left-hand side of the page is body quadrants. And again, this is important just for the same reasons we talked about the last time, where if a doctor's going in, needs to do a surgery, and his notes say the pain's in the left hypochondriac region, chondrial region, he needs to know where he's looking. So this not only comes into play for surgery, but when they're doing notes for medicine, they'll use these terms. And one of the things you're going to notice right away is that over here, everything over here is going to have the designation of right, and everything over here is going to have the designation of left. And you might think that's backwards or incorrect, but if you stand up and put yourself in SAP, you'll notice that when you face the page and you're looking at someone standing in SAP, it's a mirror image, and so right and left flips. Let's start with number 5, because this one's right in the middle, and it has its own unique, these three have their own unique names. 1 and 3 have the same name, except they have a difference between right and left. 4 and 6 also same name, just right and left. So number 5 is the umbilical region. And if you know anything about belly buttons, you'll know that everything in the belly button region is called the umbilicus or umbilical. You also are going to, so your midterms, your first 2 sets of midterms are body regions. So for example, chin is mental, forehead is frontal, pectoral is the chest. So you're going to learn all of those in your midterms starting off. Above that is the epigastric. So number 2 here is epigastric. And 8 is hypogastric. So gastro relates to stomach. Your stomach is here. So epi is above and hypo is below. So this is above the stomach and below the stomach. Then we get into our rights and lefts. Let's start here in the middle. So 4 and 6, we have the right lumbar, and 6 is the left lumbar region. These are found very close to the lumbar vertebra. So the lower vertebra of the back are your lumbar vertebra, and that whole region of low back is titled lumbar. So you have right lumbar and left lumbar. Similarly, you have right and left here, but 7, so this is 4, that's 6. 7 is right iliac, and 9 is the left iliac. Everything in this region has the term ilio or iliac in there somewhere. Like the bone here is the ilium, you have the iliac crest on that. So this is associated with this region of the body. 1 and 3 are a little bit odd. 1 is the right hypochondrial or chondriac. And 3 is the left hypochondriac. And this doesn't have anything to do with the region of the body. So there isn't a whole lot, well, it's not necessarily true. I guess the liver's here in the right hypochondriac, but there's also a lot of empty space, and there's not a lot found over here in the left hypochondriac. You've heard the word hypochondriac before. It's someone who thinks they're always sick and they're not. Well, a lot of times if people had pain here, when they went in to look for what was wrong, they couldn't find anything. And so this kind of became known as the hypochondrial, or actually it could also be chondrial, you could put an L there, region. All right, and you just get this if you took your abdomen and you drew a tic-tac-toe with the umbilicus, your belly button is about right there. that would divide your abdominal quadrants, but and these are abdominal quadrants. Okay, that takes us to body cavities. So we are a liquid being. We carry our water around inside of our skin, but we have these cavities inside of us that hold our organs. And we can talk about, you know, the organs that are found in this body cavity or that body cavity. So that's another reason, another thing that we're going to put into our general knowledge. I'm going to slide the camera over just a little bit. Give myself some more room. We're going to color code these. This is the one case where we have dorsal and ventral. So when we look at a lateral view, so we're looking at it from the side, we're going to call this side dorsal and this side ventral. And again, I think this is the only time I can think of that we use dorsal and ventral. And here we have an anterior view. An anterior view with a coronal section. So here I have a coronal section. I've divided it so the I pulled the front half away. This is the back half of the body. And on this side, I have a mid-sagittal section. We've got a mid-sagittal section. These cavities get subdivided into categories. So if we did let's see, cavities, we can divide these into dorsal cavities and ventral cavities. So I'm going to draw a line here. And I'll do the dorsal cavities in blues and greens, and I'll do the ventral in other colors. So let's start with the dorsal cavities. I have two. So this gets divided into two. So cavity number one and cavity number two. Very similar colors there. So let's color code these. I'm going to do cavity number one in light blue. Same cavity here, you just see it two different ways. And I'm going to do cavity number two in this teal green. So number one is the cranial cavity. And number two is the vertebral cavity. So we have two dorsal cavities. We could divide dorsal into cranial and vertebral. And one houses the brain, the cranial cavity houses the brain. The vertebral cavity houses the spinal cord. So we have brain and we have the spinal cord. The other cavities we're going to look at then are ventral. They lie in front of this plane. So we divide the ventral into two more subdivisions. And I'm going to go with hot pink. And whoops, shoot, I forgot to change colors. I'm going to go light pink. Light pink and dark pink. So in hot pink, I have the thoracic cavity, commonly known as the chest cavity. Oops, I've got a typo there. I've got to fix that. Grab my white out. This is the chest cavity. And down here, I have the abdominal pelvic. This should all been in pink. So in ventral, then we can subdivide the ventral into thoracic and into the abdominal pelvic. We can take the abdominal pelvic and further subdivide that into two. So I'm going to go with orange and yellow. So up here, and then down here we have yellow. And that's simply divided into the abdominal and the pelvic. So the orange area is the abdominal cavity. And yellow, which it won't show up very well, so I'm just going to do a color block, and then right next to it is the pelvic. So this entire cavity is subdivided, abdominal portion and the pelvic portion. The thoracic cavity then has three, and I'm going to go with red. So letter C here, see it here, is the pleural cavities. And these house the lungs. And it's not shown very well. Let's see, I'll grab dark blue, it's going to show up. But here in the center, in blue, I have the pericardial cavity. Which houses the heart. So again, we can subdivide. We could take the abdominal pelvic and we could divide that into the abdominal and the pelvic. I'm going to abbreviate because I'm running out of room. And we can take the thoracic and we could divide that into the pleural and the pericardial. So one of the mistakes that students make is when they get ready for this test, they only study when they look at cavities, they only study this diagram. You're going to see a diagram again on the test, but it's not going to be the same diagram. So you can't just memorize, oh, this is where this goes on this picture. You have to understand how these cavities are divided, that we go first from dorsal to ventral. Dorsal goes to cranial vertebral, ventral goes to thoracic, abdominal, pelvic, and then the thoracic and abdominal pelvic further subdivide. But again, we're just getting the lay of the land, kind of learning, literally what's up and what's down. Those are our takeaways for this video. Starting in the next video, you're going to look at a quick overview of the cardiovascular system. We're going to do a quick overview of all of the body systems and learn the organs that are in them. But for this video, that's all. Thanks for watching.